All right, welcome. Give yourself a big round of applause for being here. Awesome. I remember when we were new, we had a person came and said, "Is this the They said, "I've heard of this company." I said, "What have you heard about us?" They said, "Is this the company that you guys clap a lot?" I said, "That's exactly right." We love to celebrate for all wins. So great job, everybody, and congratulations for all the first timers that are part of the super elite, which we do it once in a blue moon. So this is going to be a really exciting moment for you. Hey, how many of you, I have a question. How many of you have a memory from the past, from a person in your life? It could be in the family, or it just, it could be a parent, could be a grandparent, or somebody that you loved, they loved you. At one point in your life, they said something that you would never forget for the rest of your life. How many of you have somebody like that? I'm sure everybody does, true? Right? And moments like that are precious because I remember, for example, when I was little, my mom's mom, my grandma, was the single person that influenced me the way she did by constantly telling me that I will become somebody special. I will do something big. I have a leader in me. I could do this. And I remember I was like 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, and I never forget. And I remember one day Ed Milet was doing a podcast, and he said that we all have people like that in our lives that encouraged us to do something big when we were little, even though we didn't believe it. But guess what? They were right. Those people were right. And this individual that's going to be speaking, as a matter of fact, this first guest speaker, he was one of those individuals in our business life that said some things in the beginning of our career, which I'll say it when he comes on, that have kind of stuck with us for 17 years. And I'll tell you, it's been an incredible, incredible journey ever since then, some of the things that we've been able to accomplish, right? So I'm fired up. So how many of you are excited and fired up for this session? How many of you never seen Great Kapp, never heard of Great Kapp? First time. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So this is going to be a pretty intense session. So we want to make sure that you take notes. How many of you heard me say, actually he's in the waiting room, we're going to get him on. How many of you heard me say great lessons aren't taught, but they're caught? Anybody heard me say that? That's actually not from me, that's from this man, Great Kapp. So he's on, we're going to admit him in. And get ready. Have your seat belts on. We're going to invite Papa in a minute. All right. This is pretty exciting. This is very, very exciting for me. Okay. So let's get started, everyone. I want to give you a little bio and tell you about this individual. It's a pretty long story, but I give a few of mine, and then Karine could get just give some things from her heart and what she thinks this man means to us. But I remember we were just an MD in the company, a marketing director, not even SMD. This was a long time ago. We were in Las Vegas at a national convention, and most of you, if not all of you guys weren't there at that time, and we were just barely new getting started. I remember we had I think it was a promotion or some kind of a recognition that for the first time, we walked the big stage. How many of you have been to the big WFG convention, right? We walked the big stage where you're on stage, there's leaders high-fiving the panelists, and then there's like 25, 30,000 people in that arena just, cheering. And I remember high-fiving, and then all of a sudden, that was the first time, met in eye contact and high-five Great Kapp, and all of a sudden, Great Kapp not just high fives me, but just kind of grabs me from my shoulders and turns me to the audience where there's it's like an arena of thousands of people. And there's a lot of people walking very quickly, right? So this is just a second. It goes, one day this is going to be your entire team. And we just left. And I remember getting off stage and I was like, something just happened to me. I said, it was a paradigm shift. That's what it was. It was a spiritual awakening that somebody that I've never met in person all of a sudden does this experience. And I want to tell you this. Greg is a person who always said, great lessons in life are not taught, they're caught. It's not only what you hear and see. Sometimes you got to pay attention. He will drop some bombshell announcements today that if you're waiting to write, you might miss it. So make sure you pay attention because you got to catch the greatest lessons in life. And this is a man of faith. And this is a man, I tell you, this happened last year. I get a phone call on my birthday and I answer, it's Greg Kapp. He didn't even know it was my birthday. I just get a random call. It says, this is Papa Greg. I just wanted to thank you. I heard you've been, training some of our teammates and their EVC teams and elites. And I just wanted to personally call and thank you for that. That meant the world for me, for a man that I look up to very much. And then this man literally spent an hour and a half on my birthday, not knowing, really doing prayers for me and Kareem, just blessing our family. And I was like, my gosh, like people like this exist, right? And I could never forget that. And ever since that day, I'm telling you, I call him grandfather. He means the world to us. I mean, a godfather. He's a grandpa to many, but he's a godfather. I call him godfather. And I want Kareem to share a few words before I give you the little bit of bio and the track record so you could know who this man is and who you're about to learn from.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to waste a second from the time that we have from this incredible individual. But, they say leadership is about how you make other people feel when they're in your presence. And that's what I think of every time I think of Greg Kapp, is how he makes us feel when we're in his presence about ourselves, about how much more we believe in ourselves, how bigger we see our vision in our life. And that's exactly what he's done for us and for this incredible organization. I don't think there's a person in the entire WFG, whether they're in his hierarchy, his team, has ever even seen him in person, that he has not affected through his story, through his trainings, through his, YouTube channel. Oh my gosh, just how much he blesses on a daily basis just through his Instagram to people. I know all of us are better because of him. So I'm so excited for this time together.
All right. So here it is, everybody. Listen to this. Greg Kapp was personally mentored by legendary Art Williams, the biggest builder in our industry of all times. He's actually been personally mentored, and he's going to share a little bit of that story, how he got started. This is mind-blowing. He used to be a postal worker coming into financial services, not knowing anything about this industry. Fast forward, persevering, going through the process, not giving up. Today, this is a man who overrides over 1,000 senior marketing directors in his hierarchy across North America. Over 62 CEOs and executive vice chairmen in his organization. Two of the biggest famous leaders in the company, Eric Olson and Jeff Leviton, are in his organization. 15 leaders on Tina's and Greg's team today that earn over 7-figure cash flow, $1 million and above in World Financial Group. Tina and Greg were actually voted the MVP of the entire company, just recently. They've been married for 46 years together. Imagine winning in business and winning in family at home. It's incredible. It's very hard to find people like this that are winning in every area of their life, right? He has a daughter named Becky, who's also in the business. Becky is an SMD in Orlando, Florida. And hey, let's give it up, everybody. Can we all unmute for a second and give a massive energy, huge round of applause to our good friend, our good mentor, right? Godfather, Senior Executive Vice Chairman, Mr. Greg Kapp.
Yes.
Great.
Greg, you're muted. Let's see.
There you go. Yes.
Okay. And you can hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction, but I wish my 5 grandchildren heard that about their grandpa. I should have recorded that and played it for them. But hey, it is great to be here with the elite. Do you all feel like you're elite? Because you're in elite training.
Yes.
You have, everything depends on how you feel about yourself. Remember that. Write that in your notes. Your whole business depends on one thing: how you feel about yourself, and you're part of the elite. There's a lot of people on Jack and Karen's team that would like to be listening to me today, but they're not, because they're not in elite. There's a lot of people in all of WFG that would love to hear a Greg Kapp a training, but they're not. So do you see Abraham Lincoln? I know I look old to some of you young guys, but I didn't go to high school at Abraham Lincoln, but Abraham Lincoln said something powerful. He said, when you feel good, you do good. And when you feel bad, you do bad. So you see why it's so important for you. I don't care if you're number one in elite right now, and I don't care if you're the last person, number 100. You got to feel good about yourself, because when you feel good, you do good. Now, remember this. People forget most of what you say, but they never forget the way you make them feel. That is a great leadership right there. Now, you would say to me, well, what do you do, Greg, when you really want to motivate Juan Jaime? You know, what do you do if you really want to motivate Jeff Blahoviak or Mario Bayona or Jamie Villalobos? Well, what I do is I wait for a big convention, and then some leader that's not on my team always offends my leaders. And then when it's all over, Jack, they all come to me and say, Greg, I'm killing it. So to see what I mean, I played a good cop. I let all the other leaders not on my team play the bad cop. So when Bill Mitchell gets up there and kind of, challenges everybody, or Guillermo Haro does, or it doesn't matter to me who does it, they all run to me at the end of it. And they say, Greg, I was going to get out of the base shop business, but I'm building it big. I'm not taking that from Limpert up there in Canada. I hope some of you got that right there. You see, I've always played good cop with my team, and I let either my leaders or the other leaders in WFG tick off my people. It's a little secret for all of you right there. Now, when I hear these introductions of myself, it's almost hard for me to believe. And I'm living it. Because, I grew up in Milwaukee. That's about an hour north of Chicago. And I got bad grades. Because you know why? I got attention deficit disorder ×2. And so the nuns at the school I went to, they used to hit me on the wrist all the time because it was very hard for me to pay attention. So I got bad grades, but my 3 brothers got good grades. And then one day the nuns told my parents I had a learning disability. No, I didn't have a learning disability. I can pick up things quicker by watching them. See, I'm more visual than I can by reading them. But, I'm turning 70 in a month. And so, back in those days, they didn't have the things they have for kids now. And so what happened to me, I was labeled as a poor student. And guess what? I believed that. Isn't that sad? And so, and then my brothers had a lot more drive than me, because whenever you hear people talk about me, they say like spiritual things about me, because I'm a very spiritual person, but I'm not a religious person. There's a big difference. And so because I was a spiritual child, no one in my family knew what that meant. And so I just felt like a loser. I honestly did. I'm telling you, you heard that great introduction to me, but I felt that way. And so when I got out of high school, I took a job at the post office. Why? Because I wanted to take care of my wife, Tina, and my daughters, Beth and Becky. You know what I mean? To be a good father. And so people that know me today say, Greg, with all the millions of dollars you made, I can't see you working third shift at the post office. Well, if you knew my old identity, you totally would understand it. See, it's all about your identity. Jack and Karen can only do so much for you. You got to be the one working for the inside. So now here I am at the post office. I've been there for 15 years working third shift. And my boss shows me an article about this balding football coach named Art Williams. Now remember, this is 35 years ago. And so it said in the article that they had firefighters, school teachers working on a part-time basis on a referral basis. So in my mind, I thought, I think I could do that. So I sent a letter. Dear Mr. Williams, please send me information on how I might be able to make some good money part-time. Well, I didn't get a letter back. In fact, a couple months went by. And then one day I got this phone call. It awoke me out of a dead sleep because I worked third shift. So I hadn't slept for like a whole day. And the person on the phone said they were going to send me plane tickets. And I was like, plane tickets? I thought this was just like a referral thing on the phone. And that person that called me was the #1 person in income in all of WFG. So somehow my letter went from Art Williams over to Hubert Humphrey, who was the #1 guy, and he sent me 2 plane tickets. And then I went, my wife and I, we flew down there. Now remember, this is Greg Kapp, the postal worker. My wife, Tina, worked second shift in a brewery. We were like Laverne and Shirley for anyone old enough to remember that show. And so we get there and he's got a 38,000 square foot home. My house was 700 square feet. Does that put things in perspective for you? My guest room was bigger than my whole house. And I couldn't believe it. And then this man was treating me so good. I was like, okay, what's the catch? Remember when you first met Jack and Karen and you said, all right, these 2 people are way too good to be true. There must be a catch, right? And then what happened? As weeks went by and months went by, you said, no, there's no catch to this. They are this way. They really want to help me become successful. And so I listened to the BPM, but I really didn't understand what they did, right? And then my mentor said, you know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to fly my jet up to Milwaukee because Atlanta was 800 miles from me. And he said, I want you to invite everyone to your home next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, and then I will give a presentation. And then you'll see how the business works. But then he told me something critical. And if you want to get better at fast starting new people, which is the most important part of our system, did you hear me say that? If you want to get better at fast starting new people, and I'm telling you right now, it's one of the main reasons I have over 1,000 SMDs because I mastered it. I didn't just get good at it. I mastered the fast start. Here's what he told me. Now, this can't be taught. Didn't Jack tell you that? Do you see why Jack can tell you over and over and over what to do? But you know what? If you don't have a high identity to catch it, you won't catch it. See, everyone knows what to do. I'll give you an example. I'll write this in your notes. I'm going to get back to that part. I promise you. This is where my ADD kicks in. Now, if you don't know your why, I can tell you why you're struggling. You see, I know right now that Yelena and Michael, they know their why because they're #5 in this elite team. I know that Arson and Marietta, they know their why because they're #4. I know that Manushak, I hope I said that right, is #3. Mara and Jack are #2. They know their why because once you figure out your why, the how's actually easy in WFG. Now write that in your notes and circle that why part real big because that's a gigantic secret. And who's #1? Flora and Gabriel Lynn. I hope I said that name right. #1. There's only one #1, Flora. Now, why do I say that? Because when you know your why, the how of WFG is easy. Now, why do I say that? I'll give you an example. Now, I think it's about 2:15 by you guys. So if I said at 4 o'clock your time, Jeff Levitan and I are going to give an overview for 30 minutes on Zoom. Everybody with me now? At 5 o'clock your time, Jeff Levitan and I are going to give an overview on Zoom together. And for every guest you get on, I will pay you $10,000 of cash, up to 100 people. Can you please tell me how many people you'd have on that Zoom? I know you. Some of you would say to everyone you know, look, I'll give you $1,000 if you get on this Zoom at 5 o'clock, and I don't care if you're interested. See, I just proved to you that when you know your why, the how is easy. See, all of you know how to get appointments. All of you know how to get things done. But if you're not, see, why does Jack and Karen make so much money? Which they deserve, by the way. Because they know their why. And it was caught. See, a lot of people say their why, but it's not their real why. Now, I'll give you an example. In my 5th year, and I'm jumping ahead myself. So anyways, this is what the mentor told me. He said, now, Greg, you got to be one of the most honest people I've ever met in my life. But he said, when you invite your family, he said, they're going to ask you what it is. And I don't want you to say a word. And then he said this to me, because words create pictures. See, so when you say financial, you have a picture in your head, but they have a whole different picture in their head. When you say making money off of people, you get a picture in your head, but they get a picture in their head. So he said to me, don't tell them what it is. just tell them to be there at Tuesday at 7 o'clock, because they don't want to know what it is. They just want to be able to say no to you, and no one can say no to nothing. Now, did that make any sense to me, Jack? Not at all. But I called my brother Jeff, and my brother Jeff said, okay, so what's this thing now when you and this millionaire down in Atlanta? I said, man, you won't believe it. He's flying his jet up here next Tuesday. He goes, yes? I said, yeah. And I said, hey, yeah, he's coming to my house. You know, come over next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And my brother said, well, what is it? I said, you know, I could probably explain it to you, but I want him to explain it to you so that I can learn how he answers your question. And my brother said, are you stupid? See, and fortunately, I was trained properly. And I said, look, how many times have Tina and I babysat for your children? He said, a lot. I said, then you owe me a favor, don't you? And like, yeah. I said, bring Wendy over at 7 o'clock next Tuesday. It's going to last about an hour. If you're not interested, I'll never bother you again. And we both hung up mad at each other. That was my brother. But it worked. Then I called my brother Tim. He was worse than my brother Jeff. Then I called my sister-in-law Amy. She was worse than those two. And it ended up that because I invited people the right way, 12 people came to my home. 12 people. Now, I never talked to him from my family, so I asked this guy. Remember how Jack introduced me, all my accolades? Well, I asked him what I should say about him, and he told me some things, but then he said, just say, here's Hubert. And then I laughed, right? Well, when I got up, I never talked in front of anyone before. I was a shy, timid postal worker. So I got up. I never looked at my family like this before. I got so nervous and started to shake. I said, here's Hubert. I sat down. Guess what he did? In 1 hour, all 12 people got an AMA. All 12 people bought insurance from him. Because I fast started the right way. Did you all catch that one? Well, you would think with Art Williams personally training me and Mr. Humphrey, I made $1 million my first year. No, I didn't. You know why? I couldn't catch anything because my identity was about the size of a squirrel. I was so down on myself my whole life. Why? Because I was poor in studies. I wasn't that good in sports. People would say to me, you got talent, but you don't have any aggressiveness. That's why you're not good in sports. And so I was just down on myself. Fortunately, the love of my life, Tina, married me 46 years ago because she saw something in me, just like Karen saw something in Jack. We all know that already. You know, there's a saying, Jack chased Karen until Karen caught him. That's too deep. You can't catch that one. You see what I said? This is how it is. This old man told me this. Jack chased Karen until Karen caught him. See, all the women know what I'm talking about. The men are so clueless. See, the women look like they're not interested. That's how they catch their men. And then when I heard that, I said, you know, that's not how it went with Tina. And then I went, wait a minute. She kept turning me down all the time. She made me chase her. So that's what recruiting is. We have to chase people, but don't look like we're chasing people. Man, these are too deep for your team, Jack. I can't go on. I'm kidding. But you see what I mean? We're making WFG way too complicated. Aren't we? We really are. If we know our why, the how's easy. Why? Because we TTP. What does that mean? We talk to people. It's all we do. And in the beginning, we're bad. Right? Flora wasn't as good when she started, but she got what? She went from being terrible to being not so bad, to being mediocre, and then pretty good. And now she's #1 in elite. Why? Because she didn't give up like most people do. See, when you get a low identity, when things don't go well for you, you quit because you're a trier. Has anyone on their team that quit on them? Yeah, because you hired a trier. Triers try all kind of stuff until it gets difficult, then they leave. So I had a chance to talk to Art Williams for about a half an hour before I filled out my AMA. And at the time, no one in the company believed my story because I had executives that said, look, I've never been alone with Art Williams. Listen, I was alone. Me and my wife were alone with him. And he said this to me, #1. Now, this is powerful training right now. And if you heard it, you need to renew your thinking of it, right? Because we got to relearn things just like, guess what? There's an NBA championships going on now all over the place, right? Those guys got to relearn how to shift from the right hand to the left hand. They got to relearn how to do a head fake. right? The fundamentals of WFG don't ever get tired of the fundamentals. Now you might see why we have 15 seven-figure earners on our team, because I teach fundamentals all day long to everyone on my team. And so here's the first fundamental. He said to me, Greg, this is not a financial business. And I said, it's not? He said, no, it's all about human nature. And he said, if you become a student of human nature, you will pass up all the people that you see above you. And I thought to myself, what does that mean? But then you know what? I took his advice and I became a student of human nature. You know what Eric Olson says about me? Eric Olson says, you know, whenever the new book comes out after How to Win Friends, Influence People, it will be written by Greg Kapp. Nobody knows human nature like Greg Kapp. Because why? I became a student of it. And so the second thing he told me was, you're going to have to get results, because there's results and there's reasons. And then I didn't understand what that meant, but we all know that now, right? Like you promised Jack and Karen you're going to get results, and then you don't, you know, you'll feel bad. Then the third thing that he told me was that if I followed the system, I would never run out of warm leads. And I was like, well, because I kind of thought to myself, I only had 19 names on my original list, and nobody made over 40,000 on my first list. And I thought to myself, when these names run out, I'm done, right? And he said to me, if you follow the system, because he said about 80% of people never follow our system. And I thought to myself, why wouldn't they? He said, but if you, Greg, follow the system, you'll never run out of warm leads ever again. Do you know that when I figured out what he meant, I was in a hot market, Jack, the rest of my entire career. You know what it's like to be in a hot market? You get treated like a king and a queen. You know, it's like going to a party, right? So you go to Jack and Karen's house, and then who's there? Let's say some people you never met before. And let's just say that Juan Jaime's there, and Jeff Levitan's there, right? And Marcy Blahoviak's there, and Jamie Villalobos, and you don't know them at all. Well, you know how easy is it to make a friend at a house, at a party? You just say, hey, what's your name? Jamie. This is my husband, Sean. Oh, really? How do you know Jack and Karen? Oh, I went to high school with Karen. See, when you're in a hot market, it's that our products are awesome. Everybody agree with that? Well, what's the problem? Staying in a hot market. And I'm going to go through that with you on this call. I just want to let you know that once I learned to do it, in fact, write this down. In my fifth year, I only made $22,000. You know why? Because I had a very low identity. You can't out-earn your identity. I don't care how hard you work. If you got a $50,000 a year identity, that's all you're going to make in WFG. But someone can come in tomorrow, like Daniel Fambo, and you know he's up to $2.5 million now, and he's only been here for 4 years, licensed for 4 years, because he came in with a high identity. That's why you got to look for high identity people. So write that in your notes. You cannot out-earn your identity. It's impossible. So does everybody see now why no matter how hard I work, I only made $22,000 in my fifth year, but then I figured something out. And I went from 100,000 to 350 to 750, became a CEO, produced a CEO in my 10th year. So everybody see what happened to me? It wasn't that the products changed. It's not that the training changed. It's that Greg Kapp changed. I realized that all these issues I had, like fear and worry and doubt and insecurity, I wasn't born that way. I became that way. And the only way to get rid of it was to work from the inside out. Because then the answers are caught, not taught. I'm so glad that my godson, don't you love my precious godchildren? I'm so glad that he started off by saying that to you. Because that's really the answer to everything in life. See, we could all go to the same church service. Did you know that tomorrow? And 2 of us could get an answer, and the other eight of us would be like, what happened? What happened? What happened? Because why? You were blocking something from here. See, low identity people are told the same thing as high identity people, but high identity make money. Why is that? Because it can't be taught. It has to be caught. So then guess what he told me? He said, you're going to have to build up your mental toughness. See, I think he could tell I was mentally weak when he met me, because I was. And he said, because that's the only way you'll be able to handle adversity. Because one thing you will have on the pathway to success is adversity. See, every adversity in your life, Edward, every adversity in your life has a blessing if you look for it. You missed what I said. Every adversity in your life has a blessing or a benefit equal to or greater than the adversity, but we got to look for. What does that mean? It means if you speak the adversity out of your mouth, you just lost the benefit. You have that? See, that's what I started doing. Somewhere in my 5th year, every time I had a cancellation, I said, all right, great. Every adversity has a benefit, so something good's going to come out of it. See, because why? Adversity has one mission. This one's so deep. It's for one person, I think, Jack. That adversity's mission is to ruin your momentum. See, when you got momentum, you know how you all feel when you got momentum, right? And what is adversity's purpose? Adversity's purpose is to stop your momentum. So how come he can't stop Eric Olson's momentum? How come he can't stop Jack's momentum? How come he can't stop Jeff Levitan's? Because they all say every adversity has a benefit. If I look for it, something good's going to come out of this charge back, right? So let's say someone got a $25,000 charge back. Now, most people say, right, Jack, I got a charge back and I spent the money. See, when you say the problem out of your mouth, you just lost the benefit. But when you respond, see, you don't react anymore to adversity. You respond to it by saying every adversity has a benefit if I look for it. And I believe, because I had 5 canceled Zooms, that something good's coming my way. See, expectation is what brings you momentum. And if you now know, but see, some of you aren't catching this, but I got a feeling them top 5 are catching what I'm saying right now. See, the way you keep momentum is every time there's adversity, you immediately sit. Why? Because you don't respond anymore to it by talking about it. I mean, you don't react to it, you respond and say, man, something big's coming my way. Why? Because I just had 5 chargebacks and 5 canceled appointments. There can't be anything else bad coming to me. Something good's got to come my way. Does anybody see that when you become that way, and you know I'm turning 70 here soon, right? Now, how can I have so much energy? Because this is my 4th Zoom today, and I got 2 more after this one. So how can I? You know, it's not easy to bring your own juice on these doggone Zooms, right? So how can this old man, Greg Kapp, still have this much energy? Because I protect my heart from negative people. Out of them 1,000 SMDs on my team, every day someone has something bad happen to them. I listen to them, I pray with them, but I protect my heart. Why? Because I want to protect my heart for my wife. We just spent our 45th wedding anniversary at our Costa Rica home. I want to protect myself from negative people for my daughters and my son-in-laws and my 5 wonderful grandchildren and my team and Jack and Karen, who aren't even on my team. Does that make sense? Why do you think a lot of older people have lost all their enthusiasm, right? They're like, because their son never came over for Father's Day, and then the next door neighbor ripped them off, and they permitted other people to control how they feel. Because what did I say right in the beginning? When you feel good, you do good. When you feel bad, you do bad. And I'm just so glad he taught me. And the last thing he taught me was this thing about identity, right? That you can't out-earn your identity. So let's just talk about the system for a minute here. So in other words, prospecting. When you're prospecting for your team, which I hope all of you are doing, right? Then what you're doing is you're borrowing a relationship. So let's just say that Jack brings me into business now, and I'm a postal worker, and I'm a deacon at my church, and you know, I got more talent than you think for a postal worker. And then he says to me, Greg, what's your best friend's name? I say Jeff Levitan. And he says, well, what does he do? I said, he's got his own business. He probably makes $250,000 a year. He's married to Cam. They got 5 kids. And, you know, he's my best friend. I'm the godfather to all 5 of his children. Now, if Jack can get me to what? Do a right, good, fast start, which is what? Greg, here's what I want you to do. See, you can't be both the trust and credibility. That's what you have to tell a new person. See, we're talking about what? Prospecting your teammates right now, right? Because you as the leader should be doing that. So if he's doing it right, he should say to me, you know what, Greg, he's your best friend. I want you to dial up his number. And when he answers, just say, Jeff, do you have 3 minutes? Yeah. You got to talk to my new mentor. His name's Jack, and give me the phone. And see, now, I've known Jeff Levitan for 26 years. I'm the godfather to all 5 of his children. I'm the executor of his will. You know, one thing Jack knows about me, I'm not a financial person. Karen knows it about me too, right? And my whole team knows it about me, but they love me anyway. But why did I ask Jeff, why did you ask me to be the executor of your will when you know I'm not good at financial planning? He said to me, Greg, because everyone on earth, the only one I trust with my family and my money is you. You'll find the right people to take care of it. Wow. Do people feel that way about you? See, you don't have to be a saint, but you got to become a person of your word. So anyways, Jack jumps on that call and he's going to say it like this. Hey, Jeff, man, I asked Greg, who do you know with people skills and integrity? And boy, he talks so much about you. And he said, you're his best friend in the world. And he said, well, that's kind. And he says, you know, Greg, he's a little frustrated there at the post office. He's working our business on a part-time basis. And you could actually help out your best friend. Jeff says, how's that? Well, you could be a spare time referral partner from home for him. And then probably make a couple of $1,000 a month, you know, just that way. And then you know what? Because why? He's my best friend. My best friend would loan me his truck today. My best friend would give me $1,000 to get me through this week. My best friend would pick me up on a freeway hour. See, you got to understand when you're talking to someone's best friend, they want to help out the other person. Is everybody with me right now? So now Jeff's going to say, well, what is it, Jack? And Jack's going to, I hope he's going to say it like this. He's going to go, man, I'd love to explain it to you, Greg, but I don't have time. You know, Greg knows a lot of people over this church. We got a lot of things scheduled, but you know what, Jeff? We got a Zoom tonight at 7 o'clock. And it's only going to run for about a half hour. And it just gives you an overview of everything that Greg's doing. And he really respects your opinion because he told me what a great business you built. And would you get on that Zoom tonight? I mean, Greg tells me you're his best friend and he really respects your opinion. Jeff goes like, sure, I'll be on it. Now Jack's going to be like this. No, I mean, are you really going to get on it? Because there's only limited people that can get on it. And rather than have you 50-50 right now, I want to let one of Greg's other friends get on. But do you promise me, Jeff, at 7 o'clock you'll get on for Greg? Yes, I will. And then Jack's going to be like this. You know, actually, that's going to be over at 7:30. How about if we set up a time at 7:45, just between you and I and Greg, and then we just do a Zoom, and then any questions you have, I'll be able to answer them because that's how Greg learns how to answer people's questions. Would you mind if we did that too? And Jeff says, sure. Now we say goodbye. Now guess what Jack says because he's a great leader. Greg, make sure that you text Jeff at 5 to 7 to remind him to get on, and make sure you remind him when it's over to get on at 7:30. Man. Now guess what? I'm skeptical when I first get into business. Does everybody know what that means? Write that down. Every new person is like this. They get in, but they're skeptical. I mean, would anyone believe that me, the guy that they're listening to right now, hasn't had an office for 21 years? I haven't been on an appointment in 21 years. I haven't made a phone call to a prospect in 21 years. Yet yesterday, my check was $32,000. I haven't done anything in the business-wise for 21 years. And guess what? My income keeps doubling all the time because my team is doing so well. So if it is too good to be true, is it too good to be true that Eric Olson is 39 years old making $8 billion a year? That's too good to be true. Is it too good to be true that Jeff Levitan owns a mansion in Georgia that The Rock almost bought from him? Yeah. So when you bring in somebody, you have to start remembering that they're not really in yet. They filled out an AMA, but they're skeptical, which means they're going to start searching for things. And their spouse is probably skeptical and their mother is probably skeptical. So watch this. A new associate is not a new associate till you get them one. So now in my example, Jack knows this about me. He knows Greg Kapp's fired up. You know, he's excited. But you know what? Maybe his wife finds something on the internet. Now, if that had happened, right? So let's just say that Flora was the one that was my friend, my sister-in-law. She brought me in. Now, 2 days later, right? Because I say, hey, I want to get going. I want to get my AMA filled out. I want to get going. I want to get the product. But now Tina finds something negative on the internet. And then I go like, man, I really, I really like Flora. So I don't tell Flora the truth. Does this make sense to anyone listening? See, I know human nature. So I tell Flora. Flora says, hey, Greg, we got that Zoom tomorrow with Jack. And I say, you know what? Actually, my daughter is involved with the Girl Scouts now, and I'm doing work with them. That's a lie. But you see, I don't want to hurt Flora's feelings, so that's why I did it. But why did I leave? I left because I was skeptical and I found something negative. So when you bring in a person from now on, you got to realize they're very skeptical until you bring in a person. Now, what happens when Jeff left? See, I don't even know what we do yet, right? Isn't that what we do? Right? So Jack, he's talking to Jeff already. I honestly don't even know what we do exactly yet, right? Which is how all new people are. But now Jeff decides to get in. I go from skeptical to I better figure out what I'm doing because my best friend's on my team. Boom! I'm not going anywhere. So do you see the reason people are leaving us is because they're so skeptical because WFG sounds too good to be true. Isn't it too good to be true that I took Jack, right? With all, I've got 30,000 active people on my team, but I took Jack in Atlanta, I spun him around, right? And then I called him on his birthday. Doesn't that all sound too good to be true? Yeah, because WFG is too good to be true. Now, I'm not saying every leader's like that, but that's the way Jack is. That's the way I am. That's the way many of my leaders are. So remember this, a new associate's not a new associate till you, the leader, get them a new associate and you lock them in. But guess what? Now you're back to work again because you better. See, I'm locked in, but Jeff's not. So now Jeff's looking around for stuff, right? Like, that seems a little fishy. Man, that Jack guy made 150,000 last month. He doesn't seem that sharp. So now Jeff's trying to check around. And guess what? He runs into somebody who used to be in WFG in Georgia, and he tells a bad story. But what if he brings in his best friend, Rob Day? Then that locks in Jeff. But now, you know what? He better. Now, does everybody see why Greg Kapp, had a leg that was 38 deep? That's why they don't call it tap rooting. They call it cap rooting, because I became the master of take a new person, meet their best friend, and get them on board, and then do the same thing and drive a leg deep. So that's prospecting. Now, how about presenting one-on-one? If you're explaining a part-time financial services company to people, guess what? They're not getting in. You have to learn how to sell the dream of WFG. See, when you give facts and figures, it goes to the head, which is where all the objections are, right, Karen? But when you speak to someone's heart, that's where the decision maker is. And everybody would like some extra money. And everybody would like an investment where they have guarantees, but chances to hit good income rates of return and access to money without penalty or taxes. See, this is why you're frustrated when people say to you, I'm not interested, because you didn't connect to the heart, you connected to the head. Does everybody see why I had a big transition from year 5 to year 10? Because I found all these other things out. Why? Because I couldn't catch them until I raised my identity. And your identity is how you feel about yourself. And you better never say a bad thing about yourself again, because it's not helping you at all. Does that make sense? Because you got to learn to feel good about yourself, even when things are going bad. I didn't mean to yell, but really, I'm serious for you guys. I wish I could be face-to-face with your team, Jack, right now. So you sell the dream of the business because it connects to the heart. And then you sell the dream of the product. See, I never sold, back in my day, we sold IULs. And I went from not selling one IUL for 2 years. I couldn't sell an IUL for my life. You know why? Because I didn't believe in my own self. But when I started to believe in myself, I wrote up 340 IULs in 1 year. Because I was unstoppable, because I didn't sell IULs. I sold the dream of the IUL. And how did I do that? I didn't give any details. My first appointment was all about concepts, because if you ever get in a disagreement, see, my team can some of you see why we have so many successful people on our team? Because Eric Olson's phenomenal at what he's good at. Jeff Levitan's phenomenal. Juan Jaime, Jamie Villalobos, John Shin. But the one thing that I bring to them are these human nature things that if you don't make an emotional connection with your prospect, your message is never getting through. I need to say that one again. If you don't first make an emotional connection with your I'm not talking about being emotional. You could talk like this and say, if you made $2,000 next month, what would you do with it? I'd get a new car. What kind of car? A Lexus. That's see, you don't got to be, I happen to be an emotional human being, but when I say make an emotional connection, all I mean is connect with people, but we're talking about them. You don't make an emotional connection when you talk about you. You only make an emotional connection when you talk about them. That's why you got to do your homework. So do you see that part in there now? So we went over prospecting, we went about inviting, right? And now we're talking about one-on-one. You sell the dream of WFG, because then this is making a decision. Everybody would like to make $3-4 grand part-time on a referral basis by just getting a life license. Are you kidding me? But if we talk to this part, of course they're going to say, I'm not interested right now. So don't get down on yourself. You're learning that. Look at behind me. That Transamerica building wasn't built in a day. It took time. It's the same thing with your future. Don't be a trier. Don't get down on yourself. And so, do you see why? And then the fast starting and then the tap rooting, right? Like, I'll give you an example. I was never an aggressive person. Because why? You can tell, because I had low identity. So, when Art Williams pulled me aside one day and he said, because he couldn't understand why I was getting one recruit and one $15 a month term sale a month in Milwaukee. Jack, can you tell when he'd hear me talk for 2 minutes in front of people, and then he'd say to me, he said, Greg, you motivate everyone here in Atlanta, and then you go up north and you have one recruit and you have one $15 a month term sale. And he said to me, you know what? This was a big, like, remember Jackson, that was a changing day in his life. Here's mine. He said, Greg, you got a lot of talent, but all your talent is useless without aggressiveness. And you know what? That kind of hurt my feelings. This is why it's hard for Jack to sometimes tell you what you need to know. And I remember getting a little offended. But as I drove from Atlanta to Milwaukee in my old Cutlass, I started thinking about what he said, because my father always told me that. He told me that in sports, he'd say, you got talent out there, but you know what? You're not aggressive. Because I wasn't aggressive by nature. And so I just practiced being aggressive. So here's an example. I met a guy. I just said, see, I would immediately call their best friend. I mean, I got to a point where I just presented, I called their best friend, right? Because they trusted me, because I wasn't thinking about money at all. That was a big one right there. See, if you're thinking about how much money you're going to make off this person, then they can sense there's something wrong. I never thought about money. I just said, if I get them a person on a team, they're going to become coachable. So I said to this guy, hey, what's your best friend's name? He told me. I said, listen, can you get me in front of him tomorrow? He said, yeah, he owns his own business. And he said, I get out of work at 3. I said, I'll meet you at his place at 3:30. So we went and met. I did my little 5-minute presentation. Maybe it's 10, right? 10-minute. And I said, look, are you more interested in introducing us to people and passing an exam? Or are you more interested in how these products work for you? Because I sold the dream of both. And he said, man, I like everything. I said, I'll tell you what. I'm going to prove something to you. I said, how many employees you got here? He said, about 40. I said, who's the sharpest one? He said, Steve. I said, you go get Steve and bring him up here and watch what I do with Steve. And he said, well, I can't, because I got another appointment right now that I got to go on. I got to leave the building. I said, that's all right. I'll talk to Steve on your behalf. And if he gets involved, everything he does is going to benefit you. So he brings Steve up to me. See how different I was now, Jack, than I used to be? But I was aggressive on the inside, but not the outside. Everybody with me? So as I'm telling you these things, I was saying, maybe you'd want to introduce me to your friend Steve. And then how many people does he know? But on the inside, I was like, I'm not leaving here until I talk to Steve. Because see, there's nothing more powerful than a made-up mind. That was a deep one right there. Giving too many deep ones now. So he brings Steve up, and Steve's like a wall. Anything I tell him, he's like, I don't know. That's all he did. And no matter, I couldn't connect with this poor guy. Everything I said was good, and I'm pretty good, right? So I said, look, Steve, your boss George said he's getting involved with us. So you know what? I'm gonna tell you what. There's $100 fee to get in. You got to take an exam, but don't even do that. I'll tell you what. You just invite 3 couples to your house next Monday. I'll come there at 7 with George, and then I'll explain the business. And then if you want to get involved, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. He's like, yeah, whatever. So when me and George walk up to his front of his house up in Wisconsin, he came to the screen door with his body language like this. What does that mean, everybody? He said they all canceled. I said, come out on the porch. He said, why? I said, Steve, come on the porch. So me and George were there. I said, Steve, do you know anybody in the neighborhood that we could talk to right now? I just want to show George how it works. And he goes, well, the guy next door's home. I said, let's go. I started walking. George and Steve were like way behind me. I'm walking already. So then he goes, well, this guy's like 72 years old. I said, I don't care. Because see, I don't want to trade. I want to talk. I don't want to talk about WFG. I just want to talk to somebody about WFG. You didn't catch that one. Did you catch that one? I don't want to keep talking about talking to people in WFG. I just want to talk to somebody. I don't care if they say yes or no. You missed that one exactly. So now we get over to Glenn's house, and Glenn is all fired up, and he's 72 years old, and Steve never got in. Now tell me, did I do anything wrong with Steve? Did I do something illegal with Steve? No. I gave him an opportunity. He just didn't take it. Don't vacuum cleaners ask you for referrals and not pay you for them? So now Glenn introduces me to this next guy. This guy's in a multi-level thing already. He loves this thing. He introduces me to this guy. And then this guy, because back then, Mr. Humphrey came up with this little 5-minute video, and all we did was hand the video out to people. And this guy hands a video to a guy in his apartment complex. You know who that guy was? Jeff Levitan. Now watch this part. He hands the video to him. I call Jeff, and we make an appointment to get together at my office. And Jeff, and because of the guy, the way the guy approached Jeff, see, he didn't take it away. Does anybody know what that means? He just gave him the video and said, man, you'd be great at this. You know, you'd be good at this. You'll make a lot of money. See, he did too much of that. You'd be right. So he didn't take it away. So Jeff Levitan told me, because he was that way, he said to himself, if this is one of those join kind of businesses, I'm not getting in. See, if you don't take it away, you're giving it away, and you're not attracting the right people. So Levitan sits down with me. I said, hey, Jeff, how old are you? He said, I'm 24. I said, are you married? He said, no, I'm single. I said, you know, I'm not exactly sure why Dean gave you that video, because first of all, you're in the wrong market, you're single. And our market is married, divorced, kids, and a job. But I said, listen, answer this for me. What is see, Jeff went from being, if this is a scam, I'm getting out, to, man, I hope I can qualify for this thing. Is everybody catching this now? You're missing it. Okay, so I says to Jeff, would you please define the word integrity for me? And he went like, well, integrity is like when you're honest. And then, you know, along with the honesty comes with the thing. He's just making anything up, right? So I said, you know what? I don't even know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to give you a break. You know what I mean? And so he paid us $100. I said, look, who's your best friend's first name? He said, actually, it's my brother, Brian. I said, tell me about your brother. He said, my brother, Brian, played high school football against Emmett Smith. He actually tackled him once. See, that's all I heard, right? So I said, okay, get him on the phone and tell him you got 3 minutes to talk to my mentor. See what I did with Jeff? And then I talked to his brother like I knew him. I said, Brian, your brother Jeff's sitting right here. I said, who's your best friend? He said it was his brother. That's unusual. But is it true that you played football against Hall of Famer Emmett Smith? He goes, yeah, actually I did. And then guess what I did? I taproted that leg 4 deep on Jeff Levitan within 2 weeks. So now that was up in Milwaukee, because that's where he was stationed with his new job. I drove that leg all the way to Chicago. I was doing BPMs in Chicago at home meetings in Chicago while Jeff was at work. Now that's what taprooting will do for you, because Jeff said, man, and I said, Jeff, I'm going to build you one leg, but you're going to have to build another leg yourself, or you'll never get respect as an SMD. And so when Jeff got his VUL, you know, the nurse came to take blood. He recruited that nurse and he drove that leg 4 deep. That's when I knew Jeff was going to be one of my best people, because if you don't know how to drive a leg 4 deep, you're going to struggle in WFG. And that's how I could separate who to spend time with. See, I spend 80% of my time with the top 20% of people on my team, because that's what Art Williams told me to do. And it's worked miracles for me. Do you see that? If people keep bringing me problems, they're not business partners. See, I love them. Jack will tell you, I pray for them. I mean, that same prayer that I prayed with Jack, I prayed with Jeff Levitan. I prayed that prayer with over 1,000 people on Eric Olson's team. They all say to me, Greg, my life changed. That one little spiritual thing you did for me, like that little spiritual carburetor adjustment you did for me, changed my life. Do you know when I'm working with Eric Olson, we just did a big event for him. He goes, Greg, they need that. They need that. He just says they need that thing. He gets me in a corner with them. He goes like this. One of them's a doctor on his team. And the woman said, the woman's already at 800,000 and she's only been here for 3 years. And she called Eric. She said, Eric, that thing that I did with Greg Kapp, I don't know what happened, but I'm not the same person anymore, even though I was a successful doctor. And so, you know, that's why Jeff Levitan never knows how to thank me. He took me to Israel. He paid for the whole trip. I said, Jeff, I override you. You don't have to buy anything for me anymore. Eric Olson says, Greg, what do you want? I said, I don't want anything. He said, Greg, I want you to have your $2 million ring. You know, I'm just at 1.9. I'm like, I don't care. I'm 70. It doesn't matter. I can't even spend all the money I make right now. See, because you understand? Like, that's what you got to give your team. Jack and Karen are giving you all they got. Does that make sense? You got to stop and not think about yourself. No, you got to think about Jack and you got to think about Karen. And these are two wonderful human beings. You are blessed by God above that they're the ones mentoring you. They love you. When I talk to Jack, that's all he talks about is all of you. He tells me about all of you. Do you know how many years they sacrificed? Do you know how much adversity these two have taken? Do you have any idea what they're going through? But they do it for you. They don't bring problems to you. They so badly want you to succeed. So now what is their goal for you this month? 250 recruits, 500,000 points. Write that down. Jack and Karen have given you a vision, right? And in the month of May, the goal for the team is 250 brand new associates, 500,000 points. Now I want you to write down how much you personally have done so far in May and how much your team has done. And what part of that 250 are you doing? Because in June, I want you to close out this May strong. Because in June, guess what? Your leader's elevating his vision over you. The goal is 500 new associates and 1 million points. That's going to put you guys with the big hierarchies. Once you get to 1 million, you're talking about being on a whole different kind of a team. And you can't build your own big team until you come out of a team that's doing 1 million. And I don't know how you feel about Jack and Karen, but I love these two people. I know the sacrifices they make from their children. I know the time they sacrifice from themselves. I know how many canceled appointments they've had. I know how many times they've had chargebacks that someone else had and they had to pay for it. How many times they put on an event and they lost money. I don't know if you know it, but I know it. And I'm getting a little emotional about it right now because I'm asking you, take your mind off yourself once and start thinking about what am I going to do for this team? Because I'm going to teach Jack one thing, and that is, Jack, you spend 80% of your time with the top 20% of people on your team. Because I want Jack to be as big as Jeff Levitan. He deserves it. I want him to be there. And you know what? This is not the same business. Let me throw a couple things on the video thing here, because I'm like losing it here. I'm so fired up. You know, you think. Oh, let me see. My grandkids taught me how to do this. That's not it. Wait a minute.
Everybody,
right.
can you all unmute yourselves real quick to make some noise? How do you feel?
It's nugget. Love it.
Hey, tell me this. You see that picture right there?
Yes.
That's me.
Yes.
That's Tina. That's my mother. That's Beth, and that's Becky. Do you see? I thought I was dressed up, Jack. I had on red sweatpants. Come on. That's the old Greg Kapp, right? But guess what? I didn't stay the old Greg Kapp. Now watch this. This was us at a convention. There you see the great Eric and Sandra Olson. There you see the great Robbie Day and his beautiful wife, Tiffany. There you see John Shin. See, John's at 2.5 million. Rob Day's at 4.5 million. Eric just crossed over 8. And there you see Jeff. Tina happened to be sick at this convention, but you see old Papa Greg over there to the side. So you see, I didn't stay that way. Because why? I didn't focus on my problems. I focused on my goals. Now, Oh boy. Ah, all right. I'm coming. Now let's talk about building right now. Ah, okay.
We just lost him for a second. He'll be back. He's trying to post something on his phone. Isn't this mind-blowing stuff? You guys see why I said he's the master of, you got to make sure you catch a lot of things. You catch the simplicity behind it, everybody. Man, we got some cleaning up to do and some complicated stuff got to simplify. That's the bottom line.
Oh, there he is.
He's back.
He's
Okay.
back. Oh,
I'm
there you go.
back.
Yes. Awesome.
Now, look, do I sell the dream? Look, I don't know anything about technology. You just don't know me. I don't know anything about technology. Do I sell the dream to some of you? You got to say to yourself, I want to be like Greg Kapp one day. Now, listen to this part now. I said in 2015 to my team, I said, there's going to be a revolution in distribution of financial services, and we're going to be the Amazon of financial services. And you know what? Jamie looked at me like, you know what? I think Papa is senile, right? Jeff Levitan would be like, why does he keep saying that? Eric Olson would say, right? You know what all three of them say now? Everything you said came true. I said, there's going to be a day when we have doctors, professional athletes. You know, we have 4 Hall of Fame football players on our team. My daughter just brought in a woman whose son plays for the Packers. My point is this isn't the same company anymore, everybody. We are the Amazon of financial services. How did Amazon beat all their competition? Do you know that 50% of every sale online is going through Amazon? How did they beat Penny's? How did they beat Sears? Do you know that Sears used to have a catalog? My father told me about it. Back in the 40s, Sears had a catalog that was like this big. Why didn't one person at Sears say, you know what we should do is we should take our catalog and put it online? No, because they couldn't get out of the box. And now 50% of every online sale is going to Amazon. And write this in your notes. Every second they do $10,000 of business. Every second. Now, I would always say, we're going to be the Amazon. I didn't know how. I don't know anything about technology, right? But the Lord put it on my heart. And I would just say it at every meeting. I say, there's going to be a revolution in distribution of financial products, and we're going to be the Amazon. And guess what happened? Jeff Levitan calls me a little over a year ago, and he says to me, Greg, we got a problem, which he never says that to me. I said, what? He said, we got over 700 offices and we got to shut them down because of this COVID. I said, oh. He said, we're going to have a team-wide Zoom at 7:00 tonight, and you better be ready to say something positive. I'm like, okay. So I got on that Zoom, Karen, and I didn't know exactly what to say, but I said, you know what? All of our offices are shutting down, but you know what? I'm so fired up tonight because you know why? Every adversity has a benefit if you look for it. I'm just fired up to what the benefit's going to be. Well, I went to bed a couple nights later, right? Because I went on a Zoom with Eric Olson's team, and I didn't even know how to do Zoom. Jack, you laugh at these things. You know, Cash used to always say to me, I love Cash. He's my godson too. He says to me, you know, Papa Kapp, you should do Zoom because you're so lively. And I said, no. When you get my age, you know, they got that turkey thing in their neck. You don't want to see me at age 70 on Zoom. So I refused to do a Zoom, right? I would do conference calls. And Eric Olson says, hey, you want to do a Zoom for 5,000 people? I said, I don't know how. And then my granddaughter taught me, right? And so I did a Zoom, and he called me back immediately. And he said, Greg, you're unbelievable on a conference call, but you're 1,000 times better on a Zoom. So that night, Karen, I said to Tina, I said, you know, honey, every 100 years or so, a new revolutionary idea comes to an old industry. I just said that off the top of my head. I just said that to Tina. And then I went to bed. And then when I woke up in the morning, the first thing I said to Tina was, I said, it seems to me like overnight, we just became the #1 financial services company on the planet because of that one Zoom I did. What's happened since then? I have people on my team that are in LA that wrote up 11 sales in one day. They could never do that before driving around. I have someone that drove a leg 10 deep on my team on Zoom. See, no one can stop you but you on Zoom. All you got to do is click off the last one, call the next one. See, if I ask all of you, how many phone calls did you make yesterday? I'm just going to treat you like I do my team. I hope you don't mind. And if you tell me I made 4, you know what I'd be thinking if I wouldn't say it to you? You don't believe in our mission statement, no family left behind. 4 phone calls in one day, this is your business? I have people on my team that make 100 phone calls in a day. I used to make 30 phone calls every day, and then I matched everything up. It made me so busy that I matched everything up, but you don't got to do that. I don't really care what you do. But you know what I'm saying to you? You're going to get passed up. There's new people coming in WFG. They don't know the old way to do business. See, that's like Sears and Penny saying, you know, pretty soon people are going to come back and drive all the way to our store. No, they're not. They're not. And why can't New York Life compete with us? You know, the #1 insurance company in America in retail sales is Northwest Mutual. They do 12 billion points a year. We do only 1 billion a year, but they're doing it the old way. How long is it going to take for us to pass up the #1 one? You have no idea. I wish I could live to be 100 because there's going to be so many books written about Jack and Karen, what they did in financial services. But I know a lot of you are still like thinking like the old days. But man, look at Fombo. The guy's been here for only 4 years. He's at 2.5 million already. Levi has been here for 5.5 years. He's making 2 million already. You know, Michael Coleman, he's at 1 million. Now, I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. I'm just saying that you don't want new people to come in this company and take away stuff that's for your family. You know, you paid the price. You got licensed, right? You went to all the trainings. You did all the stuff. But now Zoom is nothing like before. But right now, Jack, Jeff and I keep saying this, only 10% of our people have Zoom figured out and the other 90 don't. But guess what? We used to have 7 7-figure earners a year ago, and now we got 15 of them. How did we do that in 1 year? Because the 10% is going crazy. The 10% is not making 10 phone calls a day. They're writing up 2, 3, 4, 5 sales a day. And I only say that to you because I love you and I care about you. But you got to realize the same thing that Amazon did to Pennies and Toys R Us and Walmart. We're going to do the financial services. Now, why do I say that? Do you think MetLife can do what we're doing? No way. Do you think Northwest Mutual can do what we're doing? No, because they're a corporation. They've got people at the top that if Jeff Levitan was right now making 7 million, which he's close to doing, they would take away half his territory. If someone like Raja was going to make 12 million, I don't know what he makes right now, they wouldn't let, they said, we're taking half of Canada away. But we are free enterprise. Why do all the best football players go to the NFL? Because they pay the most money. Why eventually will everybody come to us? Because we pay the most money and we pay residuals. I'm the post, you know, my whole team, in their story, you say, there's this guy, Kapp. And the guy was a postal worker and he used to be very shy. And then he got a couple leaders on his team. And now he just spends every day with his kids and his grandkids. That's all he does. And they all tell that story. And that's what the people get in for. The people are getting in for residual income. We have over 150 CPAs on our team. We have over 150 doctors on our team. I never had that before. You see, it's not the same business anymore. And so I'm asking you for the good for you and your loved ones. First of all, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how do you change from the inside out. But man, I don't want you to forget what you're hearing from me today, because I know. I mean, you wouldn't believe, like Jeff Levitan says, Greg, all that stuff that you said years ago, it's all coming true. Because I'm not technical. See, everybody else says, well, you can't really sell financial services online. I'm like, and I don't want to hear about it. Right? Because I just have a lot of faith. I don't have fear, I got faith. But I used to not have faith. Isn't that good for you to know? that everyone calls me the faith guy now. They all call me for prayer now. Everybody calls me asking faith questions. But man, when I got in, I had zero faith. Write that in your notes. Zero faith. I had all fear, no faith. See, faith is not a church word. It's just the opposite of fear. So if you don't have faith, you have fear. Now, what does faith do? Faith sees your kids in that private school, but it's going to cost you $4,000 a month. But I know you love your children. You want to put them in that school, but you don't have the 4,000. But faith says, I'm going to make enough money so those children of mine go in that private school. See, faith says we don't deserve to live in this apartment. We deserve a nice house. Those people aren't better than us. And so faith sees the house. It visualizes it. It knows your why. And you know what? But fear says, we can't afford a house like that. That's way too much money for us. See, think about faith and fear as opposites on a pole. But fear of rejection keeps causing rejection. How come everyone said no to me my first 5 years, but they started saying yes to me? Because I used to be a man filled with fear, so I attracted what I didn't want. I attracted people quitting. I attracted people rejecting me. I attracted people saying I'm not interested. I attracted chargebacks in my life. And then what I do, I started to slowly replace my fear with faith. See, faith sees what you want, and you start to visualize it, and you attract it to you. That's all that Jack and Kieran have learned what to do. You see, but fear, the opposite of faith, keeps bringing your problems to you. That's why my advice to you is don't speak problems out of your mouth anymore, because you keep attracting them in your life. So how is it that we can grow our identity? How did Greg Kapp go from a low self-esteem, shy, timid postal worker? I know it's hard for you to believe that, but I wish you saw some old videos of me. I used to be extremely shy. How did I change? Remember I told you? First of all, I said that one spiritual prayer. See, we don't learn from the outside in like they teach us at school. We learn from the inside out. That runs deep right there, man. Did you catch me now? The real way to teach your children is from the inside out. You build up their self-image, then they can learn anything they want to. See, this is why if someone wants to play guitar, let's say, and they got a high identity, they can be playing that guitar within a year. If someone wants to be a skateboarder, right? Whatever it is. So do you see that we missed the whole point of education? We tried to push into these kids all this stuff. Have you seen our grades in America? They're terrible. Because the teachers are trying to push that. And if you're a teacher, don't take this the wrong way. But I didn't change by my mentor pushing down what to do. No, I started to realize who my father was, and it wasn't my biological father. See, my biological father rejected me. I was a bad student, and I was a poor athlete, and my father was a professional boxer, and I just gave up because I could never get his acceptance. And so now I had the spirit of rejection over me. And because of that, I was afraid of rejection. So every appointment, I caused rejection. So then I found out that the Bible says in Genesis 1:26, and I don't want to make this a Bible course, but guess what the Bible says in Genesis 1:26? And I don't really care what religion you are. If you're Jewish or you're Muslim or you're Catholic or you're Pentecostal, that don't matter to me. It says in Genesis 1:26, the Father said, let us make man and woman in our image and likeness. Now, some of you know that it says that, and you've heard it before, but you haven't owned it yet. See the difference? See, if you don't own anything that I taught on this training, you might as well have not been in an elite circle. If you didn't own what Jack's been telling you throughout this training, you missed the whole point. You can't just be a participant and watch all the people training you. You got to take ownership. Can you see I took ownership of how to close a sale? I took ownership of how to fast start people. I took ownership of what it means to taproot people, but I also took ownership that my Heavenly Father loves me. I took ownership because He said it. I didn't say it. That's hard to believe. He said, let us make man and woman in our image and likeness. And you see, if you are a spiritual person, let's just say you believe in God, then are you connecting to your humanity, which is your parents and your grandparents, or are you connecting to your divinity? See, I don't connect to my humanity anymore. Yeah, my parents had to have me because why? My body covers my spirit, but my spirit was made in a reflection of God. My body was made in a reflection of my parents. So I might look like my parents, but on the inside, I'm not like my parents. I'm like my heavenly Father. See the difference? What it means when you start taking ownership of what the scripture tells you, that God said, I made you in your image and likeness. And you know, Jack and I said that little prayer, that little spiritual prayer that I've said with thousands of people in WFG already. And guess what? He's already changed. I can see how much he's changed already. Karen can tell you that he's changed because why? That was blocking all the things before. That's what happens is we're blocking all the things. See, like I'll give you a good example. We're supposed to forgive everyone in our life, right? Because the Lord said, if you don't forgive, you can't get your prayer answered. Well, guess what? I think everyone that's listening to you right now, over 100 people could probably tell me someone they're not forgiving if you were honest, right? It could be your father, could be your mother, could be your brother, could be an ex-wife, could be an ex-husband, could be someone that ruined your reputation. Well, guess what? I forgive everyone in my life. Why? Because the scripture says, if you don't forgive whoever hurt you, you won't get your prayers answered. I get my prayers answered. Can you tell? I get my prayers answered. Why? Because I've learned to forgive people. And my entire team, I've learned to do that. Like I remember Randy Sakairos one time, Jack, he called me up and, you know, they took some people off his team because someone got married. Okay, I don't want to go into the whole thing, but someone got married. So they ended up taking the person off his team and he got nothing back in return. He didn't know me at all. And they all said, man, when you got a problem like that, you call Greg Kapp, right? That's what Eric told him. So he called me up and I said, you know, here's what you got to do. You got to forgive those people that took that person from you. And you got to forgive our company because they didn't seem to give you anything in return. And then you need to claim the sevenfold return, it says in Proverbs, because the book of Proverbs says, if you forgive your enemy, you can claim a sevenfold return. Well, I could tell he was mad at me. He was so young, he didn't even know what I was talking about. He hung up the phone. So all the people at Eric's office said, hey, you should talk to Greg Kapp. He goes, yeah, I don't know. He's talking about some Bible thing. And they go, hey, if Greg Kapp tells you something, you better do it. So he calls me back and he says to me, was that in the book of Chronicles? I go, no, it's in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 30 and 31. And I said, I want you tonight, Randy, to lay in your bed and say, Heavenly Father, because I already led him to the Lord. I did that prayer with him. And I said, just tell him, say, I forgive that guy that took that woman from my team, but I'm getting back sevenfold return. And now, every time he sees me, he tells everybody, Greg Kapp changed my life because he's bigger than the guy that took the guy away from him. And see, I teach my team things like this because it is important. Can any of you see that if you're holding a grudge against anyone, it's not God not wanting to answer your prayer, you're blocking the prayer. In fact, I'll give you one more. This is probably going to blow your mind, but it's probably just for one person, Jack. Someone stole my team from me once. And my wife said, we're getting an attorney. Because my wife knows how passionate I am. She knows how hard I work. I said, honey, we're not going to do what the world tells us to do. We're going to do what the word tells us to do. And I was in my office at like 3 a.m. having a talk. You can imagine my talk with God, right? I said, Lord, this man, he's not just stealing my business. He's stealing this is like my purpose in life. I said, but I'm going to forgive the guy. I was like this. I was clenching my teeth. I said, I'm going to forgive the guy, but I'm getting back the sevenfold return. Guess what happened about 3 months after I said that prayer? Jeff Levitan came in my office. Now, when Jeff Levitan first met me, he didn't really like me because I don't know anything about financial services. I'll be honest with all of you. That's not my gig, right? And so Levitan, I said that prayer with Jeff, then I baptized Jeff, right? And then Jeff said to me, you know, Greg, what you know about financial services, I could put in a thimble. But what you know about faith and what you know about human nature, I could never learn from anyone but you. And he said, I watch you ministering to people. Your ministry is not financial services. And he said, I'm going to take care of you and Tina financially for the rest of your life so that you can go and do the ministering that you do. I looked up to heaven like, wow, all of you have that chance. You don't want to just be in WG your whole life. A lot of you want to have another thing that you're going to do. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't learn to forgive, don't expect your prayers to get answered. Because the Lord said, whatever things you desire when you pray, believe you receive them as you say them and you shall have them. So I'm not going to say any more about that. I don't want to go too deep into that. But that was for somebody needed to learn that one right there. Because when you forgive another person, you actually forgive yourself. Because they don't even know you're mad at them, and you're the one getting high blood pressure, high cholesterol. You're the one getting migraine headaches. You're the one getting all the problems when you're holding a grudge against somebody else. So do you see that every second you have a chance to think small or think big? Does everybody catch what I'm saying? Every moment you have two choices. I can think small right now and talk about a problem, or I can think big and think about my goal. Every moment. Now, when someone from your team calls you with a problem, of course you're going to deal with the problem, but this is what I want you to do. You always think of Greg Kapp. Deal with it and then disconnect from it. Does everybody hear what I said? You deal with the problem and then you disconnect from it. Because it doesn't do you any good to be going around with it. So think about this. If you're hanging around people that are telling you their problems, you better get away from them. I don't hang around people that bring me problems. I deal with it. I pray with them. But then as soon as they're gone, I get right back to what? Thinking big again. See, right now, all I'm thinking about is that $3 million ring. That's all I think about, right? Because if I get because I'm almost at 2 million and I got to focus on a goal. If I don't focus on a goal, I'm focusing on my circumstances. So I say, Lord, thank you for that diamond ring. You know, the $3 million ring's a diamond ring. And guess what I tell the Lord, Karen? Diamonds are forever, Lord. Diamonds are a sign of unconditional love. And I say, you know what? I'm going to still continue to help everybody I can, Lord. But I'm thanking you for putting that $3 million ring on my finger. Because when you focus on the end result, your subconscious attracts everything you need to get there. Everybody catch that one? So just the last thing I'm going to tell you on that is, look, every second you have a choice. You can talk about a problem, which is thinking small, or you can talk about your goals, which is thinking big. And now I think all of you can kind of tell what your problem is that you're not doing that. So I'm going to close with this one, and then I got to go because we're doing okay. I got a couple of things I'm going to tell you. So here's the first one. There's this guy. He's a billionaire. I know the guy. He lives down in Texas, and he lives in a small town. And so he said he was going to have a big free barbecue at his house on a Saturday. So he posted things all over town, and it said free barbecue at such and such a ranch, right? So all the people in town said, wow, free barbecue from the rich guy. Hey, let's go over there. So the whole town comes to his house on Saturday at 2:00. And they're all over by the food. And he says, hey, before we eat the food, I want you all to come up on my swimming pool. I want to show you something. So they said, sure. And his swimming pool was huge. It was humongous. And as they got real close to the pool, they realized it was filled with alligators. And then they were all like, what the heck is this? So they start to walk away. And he said, Ed, stop, everyone. Stop. And he said, listen, I'm worth $1 billion. I'm willing to give half my estate, $500 million, to anyone that can jump in on one end of this pool and swim to the other end of the pool. And they all said, man, this guy's insane. Let's get the food. But all of a sudden they heard a splash. And they all turned around, and an arm came out of the water, and a leg came out of the water, and then a head came out of the water. And all of a sudden, this young man pulled himself out of the water. And the billionaire went up to him and said, young man, you just earned yourself $500 million, half my estate. And I only have one question for you. Here's my question. Where did you get the courage to jump in? And the young man said, I'm just looking for the guy that pushed me in. Now, do y'all need a push? You know you need a push. Now, you don't have to turn off the thing. I want everyone to say this right now out loud, and I want Jack to look around. Say, push me, Jack. Say it. Now say it again.
Push me, Jack.
Push me, Jack.
Push me, Jack.
Push me, Jack.
Okay, Jack, they've just given you that permission now to push them. Don't we all need a little push into the water? Come on. Okay, now I'm going to tell you another one. You know, I don't know why, but I think you can tell I'm a white guy, right? So whenever I went to a black funeral, they would always say she passed. But whenever I went to a white funeral, they'd always say she died. And, you know, I might be white, but I'm going to make you a promise. I'm not dying. I'm just passing. Okay. So anyways, this guy passes away, and all of a sudden he's at the pearly gate in St. Peter's there. And the guy just keeps saying, I can't believe it. I can't believe I made it to heaven. And Peter said, you made it, my son. You made it. And he said, I just can't believe it. And he said, come on, there's an orientation. We got to go down to the orientation. So they started walking down this big hall. And as they're walking, there's these gigantic doors, you know, like garage doors. They open up like this, but they're as big as that Transamerica building behind me. They're humongous, right? Like strip malls. And they're huge. And they got people's name on it. And the guy stopped. He said, St. Peter, why does these doors have people's name and their earthly address on it? And St. Peter said, you know what, son? You don't have to worry about it anymore because you made it. You're up here. So they kept walking. And all of a sudden, the guy stopped. He said, St. Peter, look at that door. It's got my name and my earthly address on it. And St. Peter said, yeah, I know. And he said, well, can I look in there? He said, you can if you want, but you're up here already. He goes, no, I really want to see what's in there. So St. Peter opens this gigantic door, right? The size of the Transamerica building. And it's all these gifts that are wrapped beautifully. Some are like the size of a car. Some are like the size of a strip mall. There's just all these gifts in there, and they're all with his name and his address. And he says to St. Peter, you know what? I'm really confused, sir. I mean, why are all these gifts wrapped and with my address on it? And he said, St. Peter said, I didn't want to bring this up to you, but these are all the things that God had stored up for you in heaven, but you had never had the faith to pull them down to earth. If I hit you, I didn't mean to miss you with that one. That was told to me as a story, but I'm a believer. That's true. See, God has your education for your kids paid for. You got to pull it down from heaven. God's got that nice car you think about. Not to look down on people. You just want that car. God's got that beautiful home for you stored up. God's got that million checks some of you want to write to your pastors. It's all up there. But if you don't have the desire and the faith to pull it to yourself, then you're going to find out it was all up there in heaven. Don't you want to get it while you're on earth? Don't you? See, the reason I got a home in Costa Rica with Jeff Levitan is because I love Costa Rica, right? I love going to Costa Rica because my family deserves it. The reason that I have 3 homes in Florida and 2 homes in Wisconsin is because I love living in Florida in the winter, and I love living in Wisconsin in the summer because my family, my wife's family's from up there. The reason that my wife and I took our entire family to London and Paris for almost 6 straight weeks about 18 months ago is because we love our family. See what I mean? As your identity raises, you start to realize I deserve more than this. I shouldn't have to worry about money every day. Do you guys know that I used to worry about money every day before I got in WFG? I'm 6'4". I drove a Honda Civic. I don't even know how I fit in there. You know why? Because I was worried about gas mileage. You know, when you live in Wisconsin, it gets cold in the winter, like below 0, right? And my poor wife would always turn the thermostat to 72, and I could hear the furnace go on, Jack, and I would turn it back to 66, and it was so cold at our house. And I'd say, honey, put a blanket on. What a dreamboat I was to be married to, right? Because all I thought about was I worried about money every day. And you know what? I could have gone to heaven that way, and God would have said, my son, do you know that I gave you the resources that you would have never had to worry about money ever again? But you chose to worry about money, and because you worried about money, you kept losing money. And then I got in WFG, and my mentor said, Greg, if you focus on problems, you're thinking small. If you focus on your goals, you're thinking big. And whichever one you focus in, you're attracting every day. So you can't just say your goals on a call like this. You got to do it tonight, 3 hours from now. So now I'm asking you this. In the month of June, your great mentor and leader, Jack, has a goal for all of you. 500 new associates and 1 million points. And I want you to write down right now, how many personal recruits will you get in June? And how many personal points will you get in June? And how many team recruits will you have in June, and how many team recruits? And I want you to get that all over to Jack. And then Jack, I want you to email that to me. because I want to know, you know, the relationship you and I have, Jack, the relationship that you and I have, Karen, I want to start building that with other people on your team. But I want to work with the ones that respond to this great elite circle that you have put on for everybody. You've done a good job helping every one of them. And so I want you to remember, pray like everything's up to you, but work like pray like everything's up to God and work like everything's up to you. And you're going to have tremendous things happen for you. And then remember that every adversity has a benefit if you look for it. Now, write this in your notes. Don't ever make a decision when you're down, because you will always make the wrong decision. Did everybody catch that one? Don't ever make a decision when you're down, because you'll always make. Why do you think so many people quit WFG? Did someone fire them? No, they just quit because on a bad day, because their brother-in-law said something bad about the company, because something charged back, they made a bad decision on a bad day. WFG is about to explode, everybody. You know, my team right now is doing about 200 million points a year. That's from a guy that started in a 700 square foot house in Milwaukee. That's a guy that made 22,000 in his 5th year. That's a guy that got all D's in high school from my nuns. How did that happen? Because I changed from the inside out. I started believing in myself. See, you can make it here if nobody believes in you, but you'll never make it in life if you don't learn how to first believe in yourself. Now, how do you learn to believe in yourself? You start speaking it out of your mouth so it gets in your heart. See, everything you say out of your mouth goes into your heart. So if you say, I'm terrible at closing people, that word went out of your mouth and it went right in your heart. I feel bad that you're saying that into your heart, because once it goes in your heart, it's like a seed, and now that seed grows and you can't close. See, some people say things like, I can get a first appointment, but I'm terrible at a second appointment. Why would we say that out of our mouth? See, one day you're going to learn, like I did, that every word out of your mouth is a seed. So when you say, I got the $500,000 ring, that's a seed that goes right here. And that seed starts to grow. So it's seed time, harvest time. Now, how do you plant that seed? You keep seeing that ring on your finger. You heard how I said before, I actually say to God, put a ring on my finger, Lord. I know you love me, Lord. Why do I say that? Because the scripture says that God loves us unconditionally. He just corrects us when we're wrong. God doesn't not like you. He loves you. But when you have fear, worry, and doubt, you're blocking him from blessing you. That was a big one. You see? So learn to visualize. So in other words, plant the seed, say it out of your mouth, right? Our team has 30 recruits in June, 1 a day. Our team has 30 recruits in a day. Now, is it going to happen from saying it once? No, everybody says it once. See, motivation is temporary. I know you're motivated today, but you have to have discipline to carry you through, right? We can't just, Jack can't come every day and wake you up and say, hey, I believe in you. And can I tell you something? Stop waiting for Jack and Karen to believe in you. It doesn't matter until you learn how to believe in yourself. You're taking it from a guy that never had any belief in himself, and I think you're starting to believe that. You know, sometimes these speakers, we don't believe them. I think you believe that about me. And you know what? I'm going to tell you one more quick story. Write this in your notes. You know, your team is the storytellers. What an awesome name. Now write this in your notes. The people that are the best at storytelling rule the world. You know, Eric Olson, every time I come to his office, he goes, Greg, tell this story. Greg, tell this story. He goes, I don't know why, Greg, but like your stories. Because see, people are tired of the facts, right? The stories are where the lessons are learned. Every story has lessons. So here's a story for you. I did not believe in myself. Do you see why I did bad in school? It's not that I was a dumb person. I just didn't believe myself. I didn't do well in sports. Why? Because I didn't believe in myself. Well, when I learned this, that Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, and I hope every one of you have read that book several times. It's a powerful book. Napoleon Hill's the one that came up with that saying, every adversity has a benefit if you look for it. So Napoleon Hill's wife was pregnant. And Karen, can you imagine how excited he was? Then he found out it was going to be a boy, and he was more excited, right? I'm going to have my first son. And he's excited, he's excited, he's excited. And this is a true story. His wife has the baby, and the baby's born with no ears. Now, you tell me how you'd feel if that happened to you. And they say that the first words out of his mouth were, every adversity in life has a benefit equal to or greater than adversity if you look for it. And he kept saying that every day. And then he found out by the time the boy was around 5 years old that because he didn't have any ears, through something called conduction, which don't ask me to explain that, if he put his mouth right where his ear was, his boy could pick up the vibrations of his mouth. So he said this to his boy every day, Jack. He said, son, God made you this way on purpose, and you're going to do something great with your life. And he said that every day to that boy. And when that boy was in his mid-20s, he invented an apparatus for the hearing impaired. Isn't that a great story? But watch what I got from the story. I said, you know what? Napoleon Hill actually deceived his son because he doesn't know if God made him that way on purpose, right? And so I said to myself, if Napoleon Hill could deceive his son into inventing that hearing apparatus, then I can deceive myself to thinking I'm great. And so I started to speak that stuff out. And then I became the Greg Kapp that you all see now, that Jack saw up in the front, like, oh, that guy. I learned that you believe in yourself by just acting like you believe in yourself. So you know what? I got another story that I'm going to let you go. My first 5 years, how much did I make? You all know the story, 22,000. But my second 5 years, 100, 350 to 750. And everyone would say, Greg, what was the secret? And I never could answer anybody. And then my grandchildren said, hey, Papa, you have to go see Kung Fu Panda. And I'm like, what is Kung Fu Panda, right? Because I never liked going to those Disney movies with my grandkids because I'd fall asleep, right? And so I went to see Kung Fu Panda, and we all know the story, right? Where the panda's dad made this noodle soup, and he wanted to get the secret, but the father said it can't be taught, it has to be caught. I added that under myself. Okay, but then what happened one day? Here comes the panda, and the father says, today is your day, boy. You're going to learn about the secret to my noodle soup. And the panda was like, oh, right? Remember this? Remember this? Okay, I'm watching this just like my grandkids are. And he says to him, the secret to my fabulous noodle soup is there is no secret. And the panda went, huh? And he said, son, don't ever forget what I'm going to tell you. Something is special when you believe it's special. And at that minute, I started to cry. I cried like a baby. I'm talking about the jerking crying. I was like this, because in that one sentence, I realized that was the difference between Greg Kapp the first 5 years and Greg Kapp the second 5 years. I didn't think I was special. Why would anyone want to join my team? I didn't think I was special. Why didn't anyone want to buy a product from me? And at some point, I figured out that I am special. I am God's son. And you know what? That right there. If you don't think you're a special mother, then you aren't one. Have you made mistakes with your kids? Oh, we all have. If you don't feel like you're a special father, then you're not one. Have you made mistakes with your kids and your spouse? We all have. If you don't think you're special, you're not special. See, we get a chance to have a beginning and an ending and a new beginning. And one thing I love about WFG is you get to do it whenever you feel like it. So today, I want you to say that. Say, you know what? Today, at this Elite Circle class, this is my brand new beginning, and I believe that I'm special, and you will start to put out vibrations that are going to attract people to you. God bless each and every one of us. Do you know how busy I am with my own team? Do you have any idea how much I love Jack and Karen that I would be on this call with you guys today? Did it seem like I held anything back from you? No, these are the same thing, because I love these people, but it's your job to get them their next promotion and get your promotion while you're getting them their promotion. So God bless all of you, and may God empower all of you to have all your dreams come true.
Oh, oh my
Wow.
God.
Everybody unmute for a second. Unmute.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So much. God bless.
Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Amazing.
Mr.
Bless
Gold.
you so much.
Thank you, great.
Uplifted our souls, our spirits, our bodies, our minds, everything all together. This was absolutely incredible.
Words cannot describe how much this means to us and for every single person here to find their own gifts, And sometimes, yes, it is hard for us to explain to people that we need to think big. There's greatness in you, but I think, I don't know a person better than Greg that could deliver this message and not just deliver the message, but just really uplift you and connect you to your core. And you are a true, just an example of what great leadership is about. Thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you for blessing us. Thank you so much.
And
thank you. We love you.
Flora has already texted the numbers already, and more of them are starting to text in. So I'll get them to you. We're gonna work on it. Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, you guys. You're in my prayers every day. God bless you.
God bless
We'll
you
be in
and
touch.
family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh
Bye-bye.
my gosh.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I
How do
know.
you feel?
This is crazy.
So let's hear testimonials. Let's spend some time to hear how you feel and what are some of the things that you caught from this experience.
Oh my God. This is crazy.
Jack, can I share, please?
Yes.
Yes, guys. So excited being in this call. I believe this is a kind call. You understand is a historical, which probably you're gonna feel is gonna be like before this call and after this call. Number one. Number two. Can you imagine like how many people will deserve you today in a call like this? How many people, our teammates, will be deserved to call like this, and how many lives will be changed? And probably will we see what they understand, how they'll see where we're going, and how they will be inspired to go to the next level. I don't know. I'm so fired up. I'm so excited where we're going. I believe right people are showing right in our right time, in the right place in our life, and showing the guidance, show the message. And we know in the right place, right time, right people, with right leadership, we go right places. So excited where we're going. This is what my